So they may not like my answer because my answer is honestly, if you don't flourish in fast-paced environments with high stakes where you have to pivot regularly and adapt quickly, then a college presidency might not be for you at this time.
Welcome to Small College America, a podcast dedicated to exploring the role and value of small colleges in higher education. I'm Dean Hoke, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kent Barnds.
Thanks, Dean. Our guest today is Betty Ryder, president of Elizabethtown College in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. Betty brings more than 30 years of dedicated service exclusively to Elizabethtown College, having served as a faculty member, provost, senior vice president for academic affairs, before becoming president in 2022. Since becoming president, Betty has championed enrollment growth, and under her leadership, the college has surpassed fundraising goals and reached a historic endowment milestone of over $100 million. Betty also serves as a member of the board of directors for the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania, contributing statewide efforts that advocate for independent higher education in the state of Pennsylvania. Betty and I also share a personal connection. We're both proud graduates of Gettysburg College, and I had the privilege earlier in my career working at Elizabethtown as well. So it's especially meaningful for me to welcome her today. Betty, welcome to Small College America. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you, Kent and Dean. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you with us today. Why don't we go ahead and, as they say, begin at the beginning. And so let's talk a little bit about your career at Elizabethtown. As Kent said, 30 plus years, and I would say you're a bit unusual. It's not normal to see within the world of college administration, particularly one person at a same institution for all these years. And you've been anywhere from faculty to provost and now president. How does that long institutional perspective shape your leadership, especially during all these disruptive times we seem to be going through in higher education?
Yeah, that's a great question to start, Dean. And I also thank you for saying that I don't have a normal path. I've always appreciated being a little bit abnormal, and if you get that.
I do.
So I view it as a real benefit. And in fact, I don't know how people do it going into a new institution and building all those relationships from the ground up. So I feel as though I started out already having the relationships built over a period of many years. I knew the strengths and the challenges that we were facing at Elizabethtown College. And I feel as though I had built a lot of trust over those years. And that allowed me to get started immediately and make some changes that had to be made fairly swiftly. I came in soon after everybody was recovering from the pandemic and kind of trying to get back to whatever normal means. And I think that people were a little bit more willing to go further with some of those changes because they trusted that I had the best interests of the institution at the heart of the decision making. So I was very proud of the fact that I'd been at Elizabethtown so long. When I got to 30 years, I stopped counting. And I think that it has been a benefit because I have a very deep understanding of the culture and the strengths and the challenges at the institution.
Very good. Ken?
Betty, this past year, E-Town welcomed its largest incoming class in quite a number of years, built great demand, largest number of applications. What changed strategically and culturally to build and drive momentum? And how are you thinking about sustaining that in probably one of the most competitive marketplaces across all of the U.S.? Pennsylvania
Yes.
Tough, especially for
yes.
colleges. But tell us.
Yeah, as you know, there are a lot of schools in Pennsylvania, hotbed of higher education institutions. One of the things that we did a few years ago is we shifted to a very active process for engagement with prospective students and their families. We created synergy among our admissions, financial aid, marketing and communication teams, working very closely with our faculty so that everybody was on the same page. So there was a shared strategy, a shared vision of how we wanted the whole process to go from start to finish, how we wanted to see the open house days, the accepted student days, play out, attention to detail, what food was being served, what spaces were being shared with students and their families, just everything down to the smallest detail. We have a drip campaign that has about 15 touch points throughout the campaign. We have some very strategic campaigns as part of the whole process. So we have a Make a Deposit, Make a Difference campaign, now in its 7th year, where the college commits to up to $10,000 to a nonprofit by matching a portion of the students' deposits made during a particular time frame. And that's been very popular. It underscores the mission and our motto of Educate for Service. One of the nonprofits that we've donated to is Service Dogs. That is very popular because we actually have a service dog program on campus where we have several students who are raising the dogs for their first 18 months, and then they hand them off to the organization that does the final training of those dogs. We also have our own service dog on campus, Truman, and he shows up at most of our events. He's a big hit. I think it's really funny when students and their families, they line up to get a picture with our service dog. And, the rest of us are over there like, hey, here we are. But no, they want to have a picture with the dog. So that's been very popular. And then we've also just really focused on our brand. And we spent a lot of time over the last couple of years really trying to make a name for ourselves in the region and more broadly for some of our programs. So we have some new programs: neuroscience, physician assistant, public health, exercise science. We have a master's in counseling psychology. We have one of the oldest occupational therapy programs in the state, in the region. And so all of those have a broader draw. And so we've tried to get out to those other markets so that people recognize the name and are comfortable with Elizabethtown College. So all those tactics have, I think, helped our outcomes and continue to drive our success. And we're very proactive in kind of looking ahead as to what's in the funnel for the next year and the year after that, and what we're beginning to hear from those students in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. What are they sharing that they're interested in? And can we be prepared for that when they're in the pipeline?
Well, Betty, it sounds like you've prioritized student recruitment as a community from the standpoint of program development, program introduction, and then just the blocking and tackling of recruitment. And it's, I will say, as an enrollment manager, it's really great to hear a president describe that prioritization given how volatile the market is.
Yeah, we really, I would say around 5 years ago, we said, okay, it's going to be all hands on deck for recruitment. Everybody is involved in enrollment. This is not just, the enrollment folks who are over in the admissions house. This is everybody, faculty, staff. I tell the story about how a student once told me that she was really struggling her first semester. And the person that made the biggest impact on her was not a faculty member, not an advisor. It was actually the environmental service person who took care of her floor. And so she saw this person every day. This person would ask her, how you doing? What exams do you have coming up? And so I make that point to our staff that they have an impact. They have a role in this. And, they may not be in there in the classroom with the students every day, but every person on campus makes a difference. And so it's all hands on deck.
I'd like to go down that path just a little bit further before I go into our next question. We were talking to somebody a few days ago, and one of the big challenges we heard through his conversation was trying to get everybody on the same page. In terms of, it's one thing to say it, and most people will have a tendency to go, great, we're good. But the execution is at times very challenging. I think it sounds like you pretty much day one went down that path. I'm curious, Did you find real challenges to that, or why do you think it was so successful for you?
I think that we were at a critical juncture in the college's story, and we had declining enrollments for several years, and faculty were seeing that. Faculty were worried about that, and they were saying, "What can we do? We're willing to do whatever you need." And so it was like a perfect moment to say, "Okay, we need you to be engaged." So when we have families on campus and they're taking a tour, it really makes a difference as a faculty member if you can pop out of your office and talk with them. Or if you are the department chair or the dean of the school, if we can schedule a family to meet with you, you can answer their questions. Again, that makes a huge difference. So I think that it was a good point where we were seeing something and faculty and staff were also seeing it from their perspective. And we came together and we said, look, if we want to be here in the future, we all have to have the same vision. We all have to have the same goals. It's not us and you. It's we're all together in this, and we need to work towards the shared goals.
Excellent. Let me kind of move on to a little bit of a different topic, even though it's about enrollment. And I read in the papers recently you launched a dual enrollment partnership with Lancaster.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. How did that come together, and how do you see the role of K-12 and community partnerships playing in terms of your long-term sustainability?
Yeah, so I see that as really important. So we have a partnership with about 20 high schools. Lancaster Catholic was just our most recent one, but we have about 20. And we offer those courses for very nominal tuition. So most families would be able to take advantage of this. Most of the classes are in person on campus because we want to get students on campus, but we also have some that are online, virtual. And so we have, an audience for those as well. And those courses are offered through all of our schools. And so there are a variety of different things that are offered. We looked at, high schools that may not have had many AP courses or many advanced courses. Thought, okay, that's a perfect opportunity for us to go in and offer those for those students. And then we have students who ran out of courses that they could take at their high school. They ran out of, math courses, or they ran out of AP courses. And so they're looking for something more. And so we've tried to fill those gaps with those partnerships. And again, those students get comfortable. And when students become comfortable with you, they're more likely to look at you for their future needs. Not always, and we're fine with that because we want there to be the right fit for students. And so for some students, we're the right fit for them while they're in high school to get some of those college classes. And then they're able to go on to a college that is the right fit for them. And it may not be Elizabethtown, but for some students, it is Elizabethtown once they've had that experience. We also do a number of camps, and those camps are, for middle school students, high school students, and some of them are a week long in the summer. Some of them are shorter or longer. Sometimes we'll have, a weekend program. And those are all opportunities for us to get in front of future college students and let them see what we're about, the kinds of faculty that we have, because these are normally faculty-led programs. We've had a music camp for many decades. We also do engineering, we do communications, we do a coding academy in the summer, and all those things are really ways to try to build that pipeline, but also build relationships in the community. We've had for many years a School of Graduate and Professional Studies. It used to be our continuing education program that started in the 70s. And through that school, we have about 85 active community partners. So those are businesses, corporations, where we offer them certain benefits for their employees. And so their employees can go back to school, they can get a certificate, they can complete their bachelor's degree, they can get a master's degree, whatever it is that makes sense. We also work with those affinity partners to develop programs that they need. So we say, what is it that you need? As a result of that, we built a medical Spanish program. We built a Spanish for credit union professionals because the credit unions came to us and said, we could really use this certificate. And we said, we can do that. And so that also has been beneficial in two ways. It's beneficial for the pipeline and the enrollment side, but it's also beneficial in terms of the reputation and the brand and getting your name out there in the community.
Very good. Okay.
Really great stuff happening. You also have your eye on the future, a strategic plan in draft form that emphasizes integrating career readiness across academic programs, including the, awarding of digital credentials and clearer pathways from classroom to career. How is the Elizabethtown community reimagining the student experience so graduates leave not only well educated, but workforce ready?
Yeah.
And how are you communicating that to prospective students and their families?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're very interested in pursuing this and very excited that this is part of our next strategic plan. We want to put this front and center with our prospective families. We're fortunate that eTown has always had this blend of professional and pre-professional programs along with the traditional arts and science or liberal arts programs. And those programs in the past, they've had in some ways an easy way to show their value to prospective families, because if you go through the occupational therapy program and you come out licensed to be an occupational therapist, they can say, oh, okay, so there's the value in that program. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that for all of our programs, not just occupational therapy or engineering or education, but we're doing that if you are in my area, psychology, or if you're in English, history, whatever, that we're showing the value of that. And so we want to be sure that students, while they're here, are getting those real-world experiences, what we're calling signature learning experiences here, whether that is doing research with a faculty member over the summer, whether that is doing an internship, whether that's having a clinical experience, so that students have real experience that they can talk about and they can benefit from. And we are working on a plan to literally renovate our career development center by having a new space for that on campus, having that be part of our tour for prospective families so that they can see that we take it seriously. We're also very fortunate and like to talk about where we fall on the Gallup Big Six numbers. So the 6 key college experiences that relate to satisfaction, well-being, and success, not only in college, but beyond college, like for many decades beyond college. And we score very well on those. Just an example, 92% of our graduates say that their professors cared about them as a person, compared to 61% who say that nationally. And those are things that, again, contribute to career success as well as well-being. And when I talk with families, I like to talk about the development of the whole person and having a satisfying life. And that means being well-rounded. It's not just getting the best career where you think you're going to make the most money. It's getting the right fit where you're going to be happy and you're also going to be able to make a living that is sustainable. And so we want to, foster that whole package. And that's a part of this new strategic plan. So it's ensuring that, yes, we're making the connection between a liberal arts education, going to a small private institution, and the value of that. And there's value in that both for your career, but also for you personally. Our provost has been saying recently that, we're interested in artificial intelligence and how that can improve our lives, but we're also very much interested in human intelligence and making sure that we're not losing sight of developing humans and the ability to interact with other humans, because we talk with those affinity partners that I mentioned. We talk with them, regularly, and we say, how are people, how are new employees doing in your workplace? What are the things that make them successful? And it's often not the technical skills, it's usually the people skills. And we feel that small private institutions do a really good job of developing people and their people skills so that they're ready for, any kind of workplace environment.
Well, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the student experience and bringing students onto the campus. And one of the things you seem quite proud about, and you should be, is that they're seeing new buildings and construction happening on your campus, which leads me to my question, which is particularly the area of philanthropy and fundraising, which is a very real part of being a president. And under your leadership, E-Town has surpassed their fundraising goals and reached some rather historic numbers in terms of your endowment. I'm curious about what practical lessons can other small colleges take from E-Town's approach to its fundraising success and building confidence among its donor and trustees.
Yeah, and that's really key, Dean, and it's that building confidence. And I will say that a lot of our building in the last couple of years has been renovation and revitalization as opposed to bringing on new square footage. And we have been very fortunate to work with several foundations that have supported some significant renovations on campus so that when you go into an old space, it looks completely new. So, Kent was on our campus a number of years ago, and if he came back and looked at some of those spaces, he may not even recognize them. And one of the reasons that we've gone in that direction is we feel as though we've been good stewards of what we have so that we can reimagine it and reuse what we have rather than always building something new. But you mentioned, building that confidence and that trust in the donors. And we have been very intentional over the last couple of years in trying to get out and meet with more people, more alums, more donors, coming out of the pandemic when there weren't a lot of in-person meetings. We felt that it was really important to get back on the road and meet with people in person. Last year was our 125th anniversary of the institution, and so we used that as an opportunity to get out and do more events and meet with more people and talk with them about where we were and talk with them, very openly and with transparency about some of the things that we had just gone through in terms of, changes we needed to make to ensure that we would be sustainable into the future. And we learned that for our donors, student impact was the most important thing. So they were really not interested in giving to a new building or to renovating necessarily a space. So that's where we went with grants and foundations in terms of renovating spaces. But when we talked to donors, they wanted to know, how can I have an impact on the student experience? And they often would tell us their story, and from that we would build together some kind of donation program that would work, that made sense for them, that really touched their heartstrings and addressed an issue that we had on campus. So rather than having a campaign where we say, okay, we want everybody to give to this, everybody give to X, we've said, give to what makes a difference for you. Give to what you really, feel in your heart. And there's so many opportunities here. And so that's where we are with our current campaign, which is a scholarship for student campaign. But it's scholarships in a broad sense. It's not just helping them with the big costs of tuition, but it's helping with all those other significant experiences that we believe are important for students to have. So it's helping with those students who want to study abroad, those students who want or need to have an internship, but maybe can't afford to give up a summer of working where they're going to be paid in order to do an unpaid internship. And so we want to have resources for those students. We want to be able to support students going to conferences, professional conferences, or staying on campus over the summer to work in a science lab with a faculty member. And so the campaign is about all those ways that we can help students. And again, we have asked our donors first, what was your experience like? Like, what stood out for you when you were in college? What would you have liked? What would have benefited you? And that's where, you turn the conversation, and it becomes very easy for them to then say, hey, I want to support that. If there's a student there that was like me, I could see really making a difference for that student. We do, a scholarship luncheon or dinner in the spring, and we bring together the donors with their scholarship recipients. They sit at the same table, they eat a meal together, and the donor has an opportunity to really see the direct impact that their gift has had on a particular student. And that's been very successful. It has grown over the last couple of years. People now begin to look forward to that, and they think, well, I can't wait to, meet my scholarship donor awardee this year. So all this comes down to, in my mind, it's relationship building, it's transparency, it's having goals that align with the donor's passions. And when I first stepped into this role, this was probably the area that I had the least experience. And so I was a little trepidatious. And when I realized that it's all about relationships, that was like right up my alley. I mean, I come from a background of, developmental psychology and building relationships with students over the years. And I love talking with students and hearing their story. And so this was just expanding that and, kind of looking at it from a slightly different lens, but it's relationship building. And if you don't have, if you can't do that, then I think that's where you fall apart in terms of philanthropy and campus fundraising.
Right. Kent, I'm going to turn it over to you. Yes.
All right, Betty, we're going to ask you one last question to kind of summarize all of this.
Okay.
We'd love to know what your advice is to other college presidents who may be overwhelmed by the moment and the pace of change. We were just with a guest, and they were talking about the fact that the average tenure of a president right now is 2.5 years, which is just sort of mind-blowing. So what's your advice to other presidents and how to meet this moment and to manage all that can feel somewhat overwhelming?
So they may not like my answer, because my answer is, honestly, if you don't flourish in fast-paced environments with high stakes where you have to pivot regularly and adapt quickly, then a college presidency might not be for you at this time. I think, though, that there are so many things to be excited about when you're working with prospective students and graduates. There are so many bright spots that I hope people will continue to be attracted to higher education and to leadership in higher education, because we need strong leaders in higher education. I think that small colleges, unlike some of our large counterparts, have an infrastructure that allows quick change if their culture is open to it. This is one of the real strengths of a small private college. We can adapt, we can evolve, we can pivot. We can make changes that even take effect that very same year. I'm at professional organizations, national organizations, and somebody will say, well, we're planning something, but we can't implement it until 3 years out, because that's how long it'll take us to get through all of the, parts along the way. And I'm thinking, wow, we would be able to do that next semester or next year. So I think that you have to be yourself as a leader, and you have to build a strong team around you. I love my team. I think everyone on my team is stronger than I am and is really amazing at the work they do. And I really try to give them space to do their thing. what they're good at. I'm not going to go in and tell my marketing person how to market something. I'm not going to go in and tell my facilities person, oh no, this is, you need to design the building this way. They are the experts. I'm really there making sure that we all keep focused on the same vision and the same goals, and we're all working towards that in the same way so that, things don't start going east or west or south. They keep facing north.
That's great. Great advice. Dean, I'll let you close us up.
Well, Betty, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing your insight in leading Elizabethtown College, particularly from your unique perspective as a longtime member of that community, which you've seen all kinds of different times and momentums and change. And I'm very grateful, and I think our audience is today, about your perspective and all that. Kind of going into what we do at the end of the show, which is that we want people who are listening or viewing, if you'd like to learn more about Small College America, please go to our webpage at wsmallcollegeamerica.net, and you'll find additional details about upcoming episodes. Make sure to contact us, let us know what you think, and suggest topics that you'd like to cover. This episode of Small College America is made possible by underwriting support from EduAlliance Group, a higher education consulting firm that champions small colleges and the communities they serve. On behalf of our guest, President Elizabeth Betty Ryder, my co-host Kent Barnds, and I, we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.